Welcome to the Love, Sex, and Leadership podcast, where you can discover simple tantric teachings to embody your true power, awaken your soul's wisdom, and live an inspired life as a natural, intuitive, and heart-centered leader. All right. Well, welcome everyone to Love, Sex, and Leadership. I am back in Bali, and I have a dear friend, an amazing leader, a really spiritual alchemist, creating a lot of embodied change in the world on many, many different fronts. She's been doing this work for a long time, and it's a joy to bring her visionary self, her inspirational self to this show, and excited to bring with you Marci Lock. Thank you, Sundari.
Yay, thanks for letting me be here with you. I love you, brother. I'm so excited to just jam and play with you. It's been so long since I've gotten to see you, let alone jam out with you. So
absolutely. Fun. We're actually at two opposite ends of Bali. I'm up in the north in the mountains, and she's down near in Uluwatu at the beach.
Yep. Yeah, we're both doing it.
You've obviously been doing this path of transformational growth for a long time. One of the things that I love talking about on this show is this intersection between where, leadership and love meet to inspire others who sometimes don't always have enough impetus or juice or desire to really get out there, and recognizing you've been doing this a while and you've been really at it for a while. And I love that as someone who's been doing it for a long time as well. I appreciate that. So I think the first question I have for you is, in this journey of showing up in such a vulnerability and dedication to the soul, really more than anything. What are some of the key things that have been the learning foundation for you? Of course, there's a lot, but what's alive and present for you right now that feels really important to kind of start with and jive with on this conversation?
That's a question. I could go so many places. Yes.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, for a really long time, I was like, have I been literally devoted to my divinity for at least most of my life? I think since for 25 some odd years, I've been deeply, just fully devoted to divinity. And I would say maybe that's just like the key phrase that feels called to speak into, is that there's this open awakening, seeing through the illusion, open your eyes to what we're really fucking here for, which is like the yummy journey expansion of experience, to be God experiencing self through human form. And not the I guess coming from the lower mind, the human brain, that's like, if I can just achieve this thing, right, then I'll have enoughness. And so it's like I feel like you're very much the same, Erin, in that you go wherever your soul fucking calls you to go, right? You're like, I notice resistance, and I see that as that's where my soul is being called forth. Whatever there is resistance is showing me what gets to be healed and loved. And that is definitely a key point for me, is that peace is my highest priority. So I like, one of my key codes now is like, bliss and flow is how I roll. Ease and grace is my pace. Like, peace is my highest priority, to be a powerful, peaceful woman that vibrates the fucking yumminess and peacefulness, the nourishment of life. And I think that's maybe coming from the journey. I'm going to flip scripts right now, apparently, but coming from the journey of where also we realize that our coming from that place of being more fully with life, being in the nourishment of life, is the experience of it. So more than anything now for me, it's, am I fully being present to experience life and what it has for me? And in that, we see and we discover, when we're so fully present with it, whatever is in resistance is showing us our path, is showing us what is here to be healed and loved. And so hence we lead by leading ourselves. We lead by going first. And so that is the devotion, I think, to life. One of my teachers would say that, life is the medicine and you are the ritual. And it's like, we are experiencing everything that's available here for us. So I think it's just like a switch of perception, instead of, I'll give an example, maybe more in the human terms. Having been like a fitness nutrition expert in the past as well, and many lifetime variations of my journey. When we look at, working like our perception of the body through a lens of force, fight, struggle, have to, anything like that, it's a very different experience than when we look at the lens of this vessel being our our temple, our sacred experience with life, to be replenished, to be nourished, to experience it through that way. So that's what I mean by it's a flip in the script of how do I do and be life. That is truly embodiment. And what I think leadership is to, because we know there's a lot of leadership out there that isn't embodied. It's like regurgitated information, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to learn about this thing and just tell it to you. And you feel a difference of someone who can just so fully be with themselves, with all of life, with every experience, with every variation, with every bit of dance of it. And that's a devotion to divinity, which I would say is definitely, maybe that's a big key to what I'm experiencing or what you're asking, which is like, I'm just fucking devoted to my divinity. And in that, each thing is going to call me to, you know, where that expansion comes.
No, I love that, the devotion to the divinity. And, you know, the thing that I'd love to dive in deeper with this is one of the questions I see come up in this field is people they're on their path and their mindset is on a direction, and then natural like resistance and things come up. And, you know, a part of like leaning in and growing is meeting through that resistance. And where for you do you find that fine line between, wow, there's resistance here and I need to lean in to grow, and wow, there's resistance here, this is actually showing me a different path that's necessary to take? And I feel like this is some place that, because I know I'm like, there's a persistence inside of me that when I set my mind and heart to something, I'm like, I'm moving through everything. And that's got me into trouble at times where I'm like, well, actually a little bit less persistence would probably be supportive and I wouldn't end up in some situations. But at the same time, it's been such a gift because I can just keep moving through no matter how much is like I need to persevere. And I'm learning actually a little bit more of that grace and how to slow down and invite more grace into life. But I'm curious from your perspective, like where is that dance between where life is showing you the resistance to actually change the direction, and where the resistance is actually lean in more to move through the resistance?
Well, what I would say makes it easy is kind of what you described, where it's just like whenever there is resistance, it just shows me what wants more attention. It shows me what is bringing up curiosity. If there's any type of resistance, it shows me there's something here that gets to be more healed, more loved, understood. I get to get more curious about. Now, what I find is if continuing to, like, when you have the mindset, like you said, like, you're like, okay, let's say I know this is where I want to go. I'm going fucking there, I'm going straight there, right? And resistance keeps coming up. It can also be that we're not open to seeing that there's different pathways that take us not there, but fucking there, like way beyond what we could have ever imagined. And I think so it's coming back to the grounded point of if you have an attachment and an expectation, like you're like, I'm going to do it this way and it's going to be so. Every fucking program I've ever created, Erin, you probably feel the same. You know where I'm going with this. Every product, every program, you're like, oh, I feel so called to teach this. Right on the path. And then, resistance of this or the timing or da-da-da-da-da. When you allow and you release that, again, that holding what it has to be, that's where we're creating our own resistance. We're creating our own sacrifice, right? We're in the journey of this thing wants to be birthed from me, and there's energy and there's excitement, and there's yumminess, and all of a sudden, because we're holding on so tightly to the intention, the idea, that's what's creating the resistance. And when we release and go, okay, I'm dancing with this, I'm dancing with this, and dancing, my own personal experience I can speak to is that every fucking product program I've ever created that never matched the timeline I was intending or the thought idea it originated with became so fucking glorious because I allowed the dance of that resistance, meaning I trust the divine timing and order. And so a lot of times it's, can I release when you go really within, not just surface levels, you know, and when we're not just spiritually bypassing, when we keep going the different layers that the resistance is showing us, it's like, maybe it's this idea that I get to completely surrender with. And that's the art of contemplation, where you're talking about, where you're like, okay, so for me, how I play with this line is when I don't have a clarity of which way it could go, I'm going to be with it. I'm like, this is the place where I go into contemplation. It's asking me to sit with it, to be with the churn, because this is where most people go, no, I just want to push. because they're not comfortable with the fucking churn. But the churn, that edginess of, I'm not sure which way this is going to go. I want to have control. I feel better if there's movement. I want it to be this way. That's what's alchemizing. And this is the divine feminine that is fucking chaos. So again, the perception shifts for me. Sometimes when we go back to the root of it, the perception shifts for me became, first was like, well, chaos has to come before clarity. But when I actually learned to embrace chaos and see it not as, okay, things are in destruction right now or things are in chaos, I saw chaos as creation. Things are churning up, they're popping up, they're moving so when something looks like chaos to us, AKA resistance that we're fighting, when we actually recognize that it is everything in divine order being put into place, it has to be like switched around so that we arrive at the place where this beautiful creation exists. And that is all a part of it. So surrender, I love it, a quote that one of my spiritual teachers says. He says, surrender is the last step of the manifestation blueprint. So you from the beginning, you put that intention of, I'm going here, right? And you start do, and then you have to allow, surrender, shift, move, dance, change. And in that, if you put out the codes of what you want and you allow that surrender, it will expand and become bigger and greater than you ever imagined, that you then arrive at a place that's, I mean, everything in my life looks this way. My sanctuary of light that I'm building, you know that. It was like, it didn't go into, to that, what I thought it was going to be. And it only got greater and bigger and more magical and more amazing. And that had to expand my capacity. It was like, can I be with this? Can I expand into more abundance? Can I expand? Can I offer more? And then you pop and you're like, yes. You just brought love, sex, everything into it.
All woven together. Yeah, it's like building in Bali. It's a lot of chaos and a lot of deep trust and allowing what wants to come through. I mean, that's been a huge part of this project up here in Munduk. Like my idea on timelines and Spirit's idea on timelines have been very different.
Very different. And that's, so if we stop resisting it, we just begin to relax. And so going back to where I say, this is what it had to expand my capacity and ability to be with all emotions, because you can't lead someone else if that's your intention. A lot of leaders, because I coach usually mentors, leaders, high level amazing beings that are usually leading and coaching and teaching in all these ways. And if they come and they're like, I just need to know what to say to people and what to do and help people heal and to lead them, it's like, fucking do it for you. Just do it for you. The only way you can be in that place of absolute peace and openness and availability for anything that shows up in your realm, individuals, do it for yourself. So that churn you're talking about, the resistance, really, do I just push through, or do I get to sit and see where it's guiding me? Can I be with it until I go, now I'm feeling some movement, or little pieces had to be put in a place that I couldn't rush, perfectly put in place. Can I be with that? And when I get that, okay, this is coming in, go that way. That's all the training. That's the initiation. That is the mastery of that embodiment.
Yeah. It reminds me also, it's like the place of facilitating groups. Right now I'm in the process of launching this new product. It's a 7-month advanced facilitation program. And this is such a skill. And I know you've been running groups for a while. It's like that place of where can you allow chaos to kind of really be the driving cord to guide you and to beyond what the curriculum says you might be taking the group. It's like, where's actually the Shakti alive here? Where does she want to invite us into? And where is the nuances underneath that are inviting us into something that's beyond the mind could ever conceive? Yeah.
That is the mastery. And so I applaud you for that. And what I surrendered to and understood about this a long time ago, in the beginning of like my first program, because I was a nutrition fitness expert on TV many years ago. And I had lifetimes ago, it's like 15, 17 years ago, had a program in gyms. And the first program I created was in gyms was a 90-day mind body transformation program. And it was like, okay, we're doing this. And it asked me to be like I had never run a group working out together, let alone mindset training, emotional training, all these things. And it was just like, I had to just choose a step at a time. What's the next thing I get to teach them? What's the next thing I get to teach them? And by the end, I had a program. We did it like literally along the way. And what I found, then it was like, okay, going back, oh, what do I want to shift and change and move? But what I found, and that taught me from the very beginning many years ago, that following the guidance of what is the most live. And I think that's been one of my greatest gifts through my years of coaching and mentorship. And because I do live breakthrough calls on my group programs and things like that. And it's always just, I trust wherever we're meant to go, we'll go. And those programs again became so much greater because, so now you could say for someone who's like in our position, that's a leader, that's maybe creating products and programs, you get the download and you're like, oh, okay. So how do I start to share this? Like, okay, bullet point. It's going to go into this. And you might like pop that out there. Right. But then it is to release and go in that so much more. Like I like to just give a framework and then I'm like, I'm going to create it as I go, trusting. I've seen this with so many leaders when they feel, and this is a form of control, when they feel they've got to have everything done, literally they go through the process of having a course done and then it's not really in alignment. It doesn't really speak to people. They're not really, it's like, instead of like, okay, this is live for me. This is alive in my system. This is what I teach. So you're even like, this is what I'm going to download. This is where we're going. But guess what? This is why I like to say I under promise, over deliver, is because I'm like, I said we're going to go through these things. I'll make sure we go through these things. But guess what? We're also going to veer off and go wherever the fuck spirit guides us to go. And that's where all the juiciness, yumminess is, that we couldn't pre-plan based on our human idea here. We get to start to operate from a higher awareness that is open to receiving as we go, because this is life happening, not trying to control it. So these are, again, aspects of ourselves that we get to just witness and heal through this discovery that allows us to expand into more that's even available. So I really see you doing that. It's like, okay, can I let this, can I release the security from that smaller self that goes, but I feel so much more in control if I know exactly what I'm going to do and I share with everybody what we're going to do and we have control, right? Instead of I trust myself. I trust life. I trust the divine order. I trust the individuals that we're called to this. We're fucking going here and we're going to allow that greater expansion to happen through that process.
That's so good. It's really a deep letting go of control. I feel like our global politics could probably have a little bit more of a deep letting go of control and the awakening of
if
consciousness.
If we applied our consciousness to all things, it would be a very different experience. But that's what we're doing. You're applying your consciousness.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess that's just, to me, like, the worlds that we're in we're definitely making big impact on leaders and thought provoking individuals in the world. And sometimes, I don't know if it's your feeling, but sometimes it's like there's this kind of world of transformational growth and development and spirituality, and that's still a very small sector of consciousness of humans on this planet, and all of us are there kind of being the leading edge. And I guess the question in this is like, where do you feel like, how do you, or where do you feel like the best way is to gap between these worlds, to bridge the gap, to make a place of where this awakening of consciousness, this recognition of the divine flow, this letting go of control, all these pieces are there, and we understand it, we're embodying it, we're in it. But there's a lot of people on the planet who are not anywhere near that level of awareness. So how do we bridge this gap?
Good question. Two things come through. One is, I think this is why I was called, like even in my book, have my book right here. It was very much, when I got called to do that, it was very much for the masses. And here I was coaching some of the biggest businesses in the world at $1 million level. This is when I was doing $1 million coaching for huge corporations and high-level families in the world, etc. And here I'm called to write this book that felt like it was like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And I was like, what are my friends going to think? And I still to this day get, like, my friend the other day sent me a message. My mom read your book. It changed her life. She's sharing it with all of her friends. And it was an interesting game, again, to surrender and allow. It's like the first concepts that were key codes and core foundational pieces for me in teaching people how to process through resistance and how to alchemize, and what was beautiful about that, as I witnessed, like, okay, I was called to really start with these, helping people learn how to see anything in resistance could be could be alchemized and transferred from wounds to strengths, etc. And along the way, then once people got that, it could open them up to more and more greater awareness of consciousness. So it's like, for me, bridging the gap was, I have these things that are for the everyday person, products and things online that people can like start with when they feel called to something. I had some people that went to my high level masterminds, came to my retreats, that they started with like my money medicine program. And even a friend now, and she's like, but it was right when I purchased that product and I knew you were one of my teachers. And then they keep evolving, right? So you have to trust that people are perfectly in their divine process. They're perfectly experiencing exactly where they're meant to be, and they'll be called to what they're called to experience. And that's why for me, I've always had everything from products that are low end for everyone, book, etc., TV show, podcast, to higher level group programs that are a higher level investment, mastermind, to coming to group retreat experiences or one-on-one mentorship at a really high level. I was doing mentorship coaching for 150,000 to $1 million. And so that's one aspect, okay? But the part that comes in the most true for me is you prepave, you pioneer the fucking pathway by just choosing to fully be you. For me, my highest level of liberation and my freedom code is there is nothing to hide and nothing to prove. That's full transparency. That's why I'm very unapologetically expressed in all of me. And guess what? I trigger the fuck out of a lot of people. Yes. You can imagine. There's probably a lot of people watching this being like, she is a lot. There's a lot happening. Guess what? I did a show about this on one of my podcasts. I did specifically on this because I would have leaders that are dimming their light and holding back because they're afraid of that brightness being too much, that illumination being too much. And so that the title of that show is There's Never Too Much in Your Wholeness. And so I like to say there's never too much or too little in your wholeness. Literally all aspects of me are my wholeness, from my shadow to my light, from my holy human messiness experience to my multidimensionality. It's all. And so what I chose a long time ago that gave me that liberation was like, I choose to fully embrace and be unapologetically me. And so there is going to be people on the path that they don't get it at all. Like you said, it's just, you're at a different level, right? And there's someone else who perfectly they're attracted to that, so trying to put ourselves in a box only limits us, it limits them, it limits everything that we're here to create. So I'm very much like, well, we're creating a new pathway. And I'll give you an example. When, that I work with plant medicines, have done retreats with them for 14, 15 years. One of my greatest teachers, the sacred consciousness of plant medicines. And way back in the day, when I first began working with plant medicine, grandmother ayahuasca was like, you need to start talking about this. And back in that day, it was like drugs. It was like people like, oh my God, she's talking about it. And so here you have this, like, I have the credibility, I have this, image online, I have this business, And I was like, if I start talking about this is when it was like very much anti. And it came in so strongly. It was like, someone has to lead the way, pioneer a new pathway. And I was like, you know what? I cannot deny the level of healing, awareness, consciousness expansion, multi-sensory gifts, skill sets I have received from this. I cannot deny it. So why would I try to hide it? That in itself is an energetic resistance. And so I was like, hey, fuck it. And so I started talking about it and doing shows about it and talking about it with clients. I have a whole series on my podcast called Marci on Medicine, which is hilarious to share all the ins of my own journeys, but also theirs, and seeing the healing that's available. And like within a few years, it was so common for people to talk about their experiences with ayahuasca and wachuma or psilocybin or DMT or et cetera. It became so common. And now the world is in a place where it's like, this is getting legalized, et cetera. That's the pathway I saw. It's like, it has to start being brought forth, that the masses that you're talking about that just aren't aware start to begin to see. So we, by being ourselves fully, we're raising our hand, we're being the truth. And one of my biggest $1 million clients, this is back when I never did, my marketing was like always multidimensional, but I barely knew how to do Facebook. And it was like, no Facebook ads, no blah, blah, blah. And I got one of my very first $1 million clients that was one of the biggest companies in the world. When she got on a call with me for to see if she was a fit to work with me. And we're going through the process, and she's like, I think I should tell you, we're such and such a company. But she told me she first saw like a YouTube video of me or something, and she was like, ah, she was triggered. She was like, she's a lot, she's crazy. There was some things that you said that I was like, oh, that's kind of true, like triggered her and made her question and hear what I was having to say. That opened her. And so then she was like, then I was drawn into this. We call it the Marci vortex. People call me Sundari now, but back then, anyways, it's like they start watching video after video, and they're like, they get pulled into this vortex of, again, they're called. There's something about them that's called to work with you. And so she ended up working with me at a huge level for a few years, $1 million level, retreats, personal client, etc. And it started with her being triggered by me and not liking me at all. So I just want to offer that to people to you get to trust you being your fullest expression is going to filter out the people that aren't ready for you. And it will also draw those people to you. They're like, that's what I mean by the embodiment, where you can tell the difference when someone's just trying to appear and play in that box of what feels comfortable and just regurgitate information. And when you feel the essence of somebody who's like, whoa, they're fucking real and they're
fully
all
alive. Yeah.
And I'm like, like, I want that. I want that freedom, that level, that love, that sex, that amazingness of life. Or they're like, oh my God, I'm so not ready for that. And that's okay. And maybe someday or eventually they will be with you, or they'll feel called to something else. But that's what I say about we're not worried about, we're not making ourselves small to bridge the gap. We're fucking expanding into the all to bridge the gap. That's how they see it. They can only, when I was in that place, it was so powerful for me to see the examples and reflections of like, that's available. That's available. That's available in relationship. That's available in my body of health. That's available in abundance. That's available because my perceptions were so small and limited based on my programming. So to see it opens up, that's possible. Is it going to trigger some people? Yeah. Is it going to trigger a lot of people? Because either there's a rejection. We know it's all about a reflection of what they're not willing to be within themselves or give themselves permission to have. So of course, but again, when we see it, that's part of the process. That is the chaos to creation. So you bridge the gap by just fucking feeling it with the vastness of you.
Being unapologetically yourself. Absolutely. Love it. So one of the things you tapped upon, I'd love to dive into this a bit deeper. One of the pieces I see with the rise of plant medicine happening in conscious communities, which I celebrate, I love, like I've had so many powerful downloads, awarenesses, insights from having journeys. And what I often see is that there's a addictive personality piece that comes in around this, especially, I do a lot of work with male bodies, and I find not just male bodies, but all bodies can be quite addictive beings. It's like we get the codes to all consciousness and everything, and then sometimes there's a inability to integrate, or there's like, oh, I did this Friday, I have to do this next Friday, I have to do it next Friday, and I have to keep meeting the mother. And I don't want to come from a place of judgment, but I also see that there's often a outsourcing of Shakti, if you will, onto this medicine. It's like, oh, the medicine's showing me this. The medicine's showing me this. It's like, where, and I'd like to get your perspective on this. So this is a really, like any of the men's work I do, I don't use medicine for this exact reason, because I want people to know the potency and the power of their own body. So where in introducing this and introducing plant medicines into people's lives, how do you kind of find that line between having it be something that's deeply insightful and rather than something that's like, oh, I need to go chase another high peak experience of awakening consciousness?
Yeah, it's such a good conversation. I'm so glad you brought that up. And what is the beauty of these gifts that we have of sacred consciousness? Just like we have everything from, you could call it sound, right? This sound code, sound healing. You go to a sound healing, you use the sound bowls, and it's this activation of your system, might clear things away, right? You use breath, use meditation. This is another modality of consciousness, a tool of consciousness that can take us to a higher awareness, right? It is not, like I'm very much with this. I'm like, it is not the end all. It is not the only. For me, it's like when you feel called to it, when it keeps popping up in your field, and it's like this awareness is here to help you expand into seeing what needs to be healed within your system and access new levels of gifts or attunement. Then, as you pointed to, integrate, 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 integrate. So I work with medicine in a very different way. So I do not go to friends' parties and do medicine. To me, that would be cray cray. That's like, I'm just asking to just open up an energetic field and receive everyone's shit. Like everyone's just purging their shit. If you're not in a sacred space with a sacred facilitator, if you haven't prepared your body vessel, you know what's going to come up with medicine, how to work with it, and then you do massive amounts of integration, we're missing it. We're missing it. It's not a quick fix. It is not a spiritual bypass. And so I 100% agree with you. This is something I could go off on for a long time. And I've done many shows about this, of the importance and the value of like, when you're called to it, then integrating with it. So for me, I'll give you an example, Erin. I mean, because I've worked with medicine for 14 years, I mean, I've probably worked with Grandmother Aya over 80 times. That's because I've run a gazillion retreats, etc. But it's like literally been now almost 3 years since I don't go, oh, I need to do it. I need to do it. I need to do it. It's literally when I'm called to do it. For that next level. Because I had someone ask me this the other day. You're like being very experienced. Psilocybin's another one of my medicines that I work with and work with groups, as well as DMT. And it's only when my system says it's time for another level of where I require that support, that openness to integrate or clear through some things. Because there's things even right now in my human journey that have been challenging. And when my human's doing the best it can to alchemize, and my higher awareness working in the flow and the dance of that. And I have worked with so many individuals that we've cleared diseases, like they've healed their cancer, we've, sexual abuse, you name it. There's a whole nother level what's available, but it's again, like there's a deep preparation. Let's already start looking at where the resistance is, what gets to be healed and loved, and how we work through that. Then this is almost like it gives a higher awareness to support us or activate and awaken more of our gifts and our sensory skill sets, all these things within our DNA that we blocked and locked down. And then it's as we integrate that, it's not now I need to go back and do it. So what you spoke to is the most common thing when people are not working with it in the way that it's available. Because again, there's shadow and light in all things, right? And so they go have a high and a big experience. They don't know how to integrate it. And then they think they got to go back to that. Where my experience is, I receive all the information and that have that experience, the healing, the upgrades. And then I'm in full communication with the sacred consciousness all the time. Like I have access to those gifts. I don't have to go back for more. I don't have to go back to feel that feeling. So you're just describing, just like, let's say someone goes through one of your beautiful retreat experiences, Tantra retreats, and they had such an amazing experience, but they don't go home and integrate it, whether in their relationship or with themselves. And they're like, I just got to go back and be with you again to feel that feeling. Same thing, right? I got to go to this. It's where you're speaking to addiction, and that plays out. That can play out with anything, right? And so it's like, can we actually learn to, I think what it's teaching us and what's really ultimately here for us is, as you do, is learn to facilitate through your own beingness, through energy, to become alchemists. This is why I'm like, I'm a fucking alchemist. I'm here to teach people to alchemize. Whatever here is in a lower vibration density, has a limited story idea, is available for me. When I choose it, I can breathe, I can down, I can alchemize. I don't have to sit with the density and go to plant medicine to make it shift. And I am a big proponent of working with plant medicine when you're ready for it, when you prepare yourself for it. So my retreats, we do months pre-advance. They go through a whole program that I have on preparing how to work with medicine. We detox, we enemas, we fast, our body vessels. We learn how to process and work through resistance, how to process. We learn what the medicine's going to do and bringing stuff up so we can alchemize with it and play to its fullest liberation. We do all that in preparation, that literally by the time we get to a medicine journey, everyone's always like, I already cleared everything I thought I was going to go into medicine for. The magic is that we're going to go where we couldn't even see. We started to clear what we could see was in resistance and what our intentions were, etc. And knowing how to play with that, even with every journey, then we do live, really deep breakthrough work of like wherever there might be caught on something so it doesn't loop and so it can keep expanding. And then by the time we're done with it, then it's like months worth of integration where we're doing group calls, video calls, integrate. So that hopefully will clear it up for people, where it's like, it's not to in anything when we're not becoming the source. The source. And so source doesn't seek, source just is. I can operate from that place. I'm being with all of it. And I know, because I am the creator and crafter of this dream, if I'm not loving what I'm seeing, I get to fucking move the energy, clear the energy, expand, create a whole new level of mastery. And it comes from me. So I think what you're doing in that, I have plenty of things that don't involve medicine at all. There's just my medicine retreats that when people are ready for that, and they've gone through usually a ton of my programs and deep work before we go to that place where it's like, let's also let this consciousness support you in awakening. Just like your guidance might be through some of the rituals and the things that you do, allow them to feel that kundalini, that shakti, that energy, that aliveness, that they go, oh, now I know how to connect to that at any time and create that from my own vessel, to optimize and transmute. So hopefully that answers the question.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I remember my first toad journey and having such a deep opening and awakening. And then, for now pretty much a lifetime after, when I go into meditation, I just can connect to such a pure state of direct consciousness. It's like,
because you've done it, you connected to it, and you know the pathway now. So it's there for you. You don't have to go back and do it again to ever feel that experience. So yes, you got it. Exactly.
That's right there. Yeah. I love that. So I'd love to, kind of shift gears a little bit into something around, this journey of life. And, we're talking about life mastery and spiritual leadership. And each one of us, has a certain, you could say, timeline in one way or another. And we're here doing our best and showing up as we can. And, it came into my mind and awareness. I wanted to bring it in. But a dear brother who, I had on this show as well, and I know you were close with, dear brother Aaron. He and I did a bunch of different work, and I just want to present him, but also from the place of, I'd love to hear your thoughts on when the passing of life and the passing of space and time, and when we think as these beings like this, I'm here to do this up until 78 or 92, or I'm going to do all these things in life, and at the end of the day we have no fucking idea. Like life can end in a moment, and my heart and soul is with him and everything that he brought into this world. And I know, he's only looking above and saying, and celebrating all the brothers and sisters that he helped activate and awaken and everything else. But I'd love to take this as a place to speak about death and to speak about the transitional times of we're activating and awakening, we're recognizing consciousness. And at some point, on this tiny little rock in the middle of the galaxy in the universe, our life as we know it will end incomplete as a human being. And so where's this transitional dance? I'd love to get a Sundari insight on this one, love.
Oh my gosh. Well, Aaron, it's interesting that you asked me this, because Aaron was one of my closest friends. He was actually a big part of my project here at the Sanctuary of Light as well. I talked to him almost daily, messaging and daily. He was one of my very closest friends, and he actually was for me. So this is one of the things that I've been alchemizing the last few weeks. And so, was getting to be with the ranges of emotion of all the things of all of a sudden this being transitioning. And what's interesting is the way that I see through consciousness, this idea of death, and which is this transition. Living from that consciousness for so long, I mean, it was we also had other good friends who, like a year ago here, were transitioned.
Yeah,
they were really dear, close friends of mine as well, and there was a lot of pain and hurt. I felt I cried a lot, and just because I'd been gone for 2 years running retreats, doing a documentary, and I came back and we were messaging to see each other, and I didn't even get to see them, and then had the news of the landslide that they were killed in. And there was like a lot of sadness that I didn't get to see them again in human. But even with that was like, wow, they were such fucking sacred, glorious people, grateful that I got to witness to be them, and always transitioning it to gratitude and seeing it through the light of like, beloved, you've ascended, you completed. I'm so happy for you. And trying to a human that's creating suffering. And for them, it's beautiful. And then about, I would say 4 or 5 months ago, maybe 6 months ago, I had another friend that was a lover, etc. Like found out he passed away suddenly. And again, I had some human sadness, but was just like, I love you, so happy for you, etc. When Aaron passed, it rocked my world. It really did. It was like, and so I saw this even in community, because Aaron, for those of you that don't know, he was larger than life. He was like such an impact. Anyone that had any little interaction with him, they felt impacted, you know? And so, and because he was a big piece in my world, he would always say to me, I got you, I got you. And I was like, I know you do. Like, big ass man covered in tattoos. And I always felt like my assistant, who's been by my side for like 17 years, and she knows all my friends and communicates with them on like things. And she was like, I always felt like no matter what happened with you in Bali or wherever in the world, like, or you in Bali specifically, because Aaron's there, she's like, that you're always safe and protected. And so that was like this rock in my world that I felt like was this divine masculine protector, as well as saw the vision of my project, was so involved, was just gone. And what I, in my beautiful journey with this over the last few weeks, I saw a lot in community, how they were feeling this loss and would speak to this loss. And it was so strong within me to be like, how it almost diminishes or creates, again, we create our own suffering, we create a gap of like what is actually available, or we somehow make it smaller than if we're saying there's a loss here. And I'm like, what is actually calling us forth to is to feel that fucking gap. Like, this person was so big in community, was so big in doing philanthropy projects, and like worked every single week almost. He was at the with the it's not a school, but the place for like the I like to call it specially abled kids, always doing these projects, as you know, always like just, he was the example of it, right? And so we could, instead of going, well, that's a loss, now we don't have him in real time here to it's like, how do we step up and provide that? How do we be that? You know, and the mastery is for my human to not go into sadness, loss, etc., but just go into gratitude and appreciation. I've had to just think, I am so fucking grateful he was one of my closest friends. I'm so fucking grateful. I learned so much from him. I'm so fucking grateful for his presence and all he taught me. And how do I get to implement more of that, to expand more of that? And I've had so many healing conversations with him. He's fucking right here with me. He's like right here, like, yeah, you know? So it's like silly again. And I'm like, he's actually, I feel like, and what I shifted my perception to as well, was that he's even more so involved in my project now. He saw this beautiful place I'm building, the Sanctuary of Light, as this glorious space that was, he was so excited for the dark room, because I'll have dark room versions too. And he was going to be the very first one to do a dark room, because he hasn't done that yet. And it's like, I know now he's multidimensional, like, do. And I'm like, versus the human that's like, okay, what are these pieces? So, you know, I know that we're dancing in other realms. I'm in experience of there's no fucking way I can only have one lifetime experience to the mass evolution we have for ourselves through our human experience. So I know we're playing in other realms, he's just soul family. And this was just the completion, transitioning. His soul is just transitioning. There's no death. It's just, I mean, it's actually, when you get into some of the spiritual teachers in India, they say like life or death is the access to life. And that it's like they see death as the starting point. And so here on our human brains, we're like, oh, we're in life and it's going to end. We're going to die. It's kind of silly, these programs we create for ourselves, when it's actually, oh, I've completed to transition into the next evolution of my soul. So we know that that's really what's happening. But from our human awareness, it can feel, we're just feeling all this. So we're feeling all the emotions, we're witnessing. And again, I see it as, he was a perfect reflector. I mean, I really had resistance to, resistance to, like, with his passing or some of the ways that he passed. But what I recognize as well is that it showed me how much I love. It showed me how much I feel. So instead of, again, seeing it as rejecting it, it's like the fact that it felt like it rocked my world and I had days of just emotional expression. And that's a beautiful gift of our, again, alchemizing the energy. Because if you would have even mentioned his name 2 weeks ago, I would have just cried my fucking eyes out with you and not been able to speak. And now I'm like, oh, my beloved. Okay, yeah. Because I had so many waves of rage and anger and screaming and, sadness. And I got to move those pieces and then really choose intentionally what I was I was seeing from it, and what I was going to imprint with and integrate as like, this is what is, instead of some other story. My chosen story was, wow, this rocked my world so much because I had the gift of experiencing his level of security and safety in my world, and presence and in me and support, and it showed me how much I can love as a human, how much something mean to me, that it affected me so much. So, and that's the journey, and I'm still on it. I still, you know, I'm like, have those moments of like, you know, my human's like, I can't believe this is true and real. And then I just go into gratitude and appreciation and see it as, again, celebrating. He's not in suffering. We're the ones that are creating the suffering. And I'm sure he wouldn't want us to be in suffering. I was just messaging with his girlfriend yesterday, and she actually, I have a biohacking machine that he had at his house he was using for his health. And she sent it back down to me. And now we're sharing these conversations of like, just like gratitude of all the things that he shared and he taught us, versus something's missing. So that's the thing I would say is the most prevalent for me in that experience of alchemy, is we have these beautiful examples and teachers, and how do we choose to step up and implement their essence, their behaviors, their way of being, that calls us forth to be more, to share more, to expand more.
Yeah. No, I love that. Thank you for your sharing. Yeah, I really hear in that the place of where love comes through, and the transmutation of energy, and recognizing that all these, you know, you, I, all of us hold different kind of codes or chords of energy, and then the passing and the shifting of that is just gets to be seen into other places, forms, and shapes, and actually recognizing that in all of that, love is present through us, with us, as us. And what a beautiful representation of that. I feel your heart in that. Thank you.
Well, and to the point also that you were asking, which is like that it could be done like that. And that's why, like, why wouldn't we just fucking choose to so fully embrace the experience of life? That's why I said at the beginning of this call that for me, my highest priority is experience of life, to be so fully in the experience of life, in the nourishment, in the yumminess, in whatever, because it, you know, this is the time for it. This is our experience of it. We would have never thought that those friends that passed, or the Aaron would happen. You know, they were not old. They were, you know, they were young and thriving and teaching and doing so many things. And it's like, that's a good reminder that I'm here to fucking be fully with all my feelings, all my emotions, all that life calls me to create the greatest experience. That's what we're here for. And it's from that place, if you're, the drive is, that's where we go back to devotion to divinity, right? Like I believe and I teach, I am my purpose. You are your purpose. From a different perception, construct of consciousness, we're like, what's my purpose? So I can do this thing and I can be enough, and, or I can make a, even if it's make a difference. But when we flip it to, I am the purpose. My evolution is the purpose. My ascension is the purpose, because from and through that is how I create, I serve, right? It's how purpose is expanded from me. But if I'm willing to be in this moment, the death of Aaron, then, and it shows me where I have stories and ideas either about death or about separation or about blah, 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 blah. That is the perfect thing right now. That is my purpose, my evolution. And so, as I said, when we can just be with the resistance and know this is like the path of our devotion to our discovery, our ascension, our expression, our expansion, our what we're really here for, then we're coming from it at a very different, beautiful awareness than, you know, this smaller self that's like, I need to do this.
I hear a lot in all of this, kind of the I mean, we haven't spoken about it directly, but kind of the references of spiral dynamics, and kind of Ken Wilber's stuff of looking at different phases of development. One of the retreats I was just teaching last week is called Awaken as Love, and we dive quite deep into that as a reference point of consciousness, and how we can phrase consciousness in different levels of development. Because if we're, you know, looking at, let's say, if we're in a turquoise framework and we're looking down at a, you know, a red or a blue, it's like there's this frame of can this be inclusive as a developmental state of consciousness? And I have this thought process sometimes when I'm here in my home in Munduk and looking around at all the very sweet Balinese, you know, beings that I love, and they're just at a, not a higher or lower, it's just a different reference point of what's important in their consciousness. And I actually really enjoy just meeting people in that state and not trying to be anything
Mhm.
other than just the beauty of life that's happening inside each and every moment. And I think that's also my experience of you, is there's a certain humbleness and humility of your being that just says, okay, life is here. How can I
Mhm.
meet this here? Not that I'm bigger or smaller or anything else. It's like, this is what life is presenting. Let me love it. How do I love this here?
Yeah, exactly. When you're at that point that you're speaking to, it's like you enjoy every interaction with life. One of the practices for me was seeing everyone as God. And so
Mm-hmm.
this Balinese worker that's out in the rice field, and and we can come from a place, some people are like, but if we're all, to have this worthiness of who we truly are, then what about the people that are cleaning your house and cleaning the toilets and out and da da da? And where you're saying they're in their perfect experience, they're in their perfect level of conscious awakening awareness. But when you still choose, there isn't better than, less than, etc. There's just, wow, the juicy, yummy, visual of all of life happening in all its glorious ways. And everyone is God, experiencing the human aspect, which is feeding the collective consciousness of our awakening, right? It's like, I just found just so much yumminess in talking to every Uber driver or wherever I was around the world, like embracing life with every person. And like, what is this interaction for? Like, how can I
Mm-hmm.
affect this interaction? How can I be an influence and impact in this interaction, whether to just make them smile and stop and ask their name, etc. And also, what are they here to teach me? And I've had so many Uber drivers and people, like taxi drivers in different countries and all the different things, whatever, that share a little piece that I'm like, oh, that was a perfect little receiving for me. So it's all happening everywhere. And you're right, it's all just like this interwoven connectedness, even in our epigenetics, when you really get into that, that it's like you are actually if you're in the egg of your mom, when she's in the egg of your grandma, etc., like you literally 42 generations of epigenetics that you take on in your DNA. So hence there's just so much interconnectedness that we're all just weaving through, and it just becomes the beauty, the dance with life, the devotion to life. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I
Mm-hmm.
remembered a program I did years ago when I did my master's in spiritual psychology in California, and then we did this kind of soul-centered leadership 1 year program, and like the last culmination week, and I actually forget the teacher's name, but what left an impact was every day when he was walking to the place in Southern California, he'd have conversations with the homeless guy, and that was like his main teaching point for the starting that day, was like, what was the wisdom of the homeless man brought into
Yes.
this, like, and here we were paying our big money for our consciousness education, and it was like, what is this homeless man going to bring into this?
Yes, so good, right? It's like all aspects of awareness. And the homeless guy could have had the most incredible journey. And then he's now experiencing the surrender of his worthiness not being about money or a place to live or a roof over his head. Like, there's so much mastery and teaching in all of it,
Yeah,
as
for
I've
sure.
gone that journey of expansion, like I said, from having $1 million clients. So I don't know if you know this much about my journey, but being called to release it all and go global, and where I've been Yesmatic for 9 years now. Other than like when I've dropped into Bali and then building the sanctuary, and like go be with enlightened masters in a cave for 3 months and do this and do that. And it's like letting out all that go of what I thought safety and security was, And so again, when we just be it, we be our full expression of life in all the ways, and think of the beauty of each of us having our different variations of that. It's like we can see that it's all available, and hopefully, as this intent, right, is that people see that they too can step into, as you brought in the beginning of this conversation, that they too can step into the expansion of what is there for them to experience and bring. And we're all just doing it. So just bring compassion, bring love into it, bring some joy. It's like, even in the experience I am in my sanctuary of light with the construction things that are happening, I got back, I was in Thailand for 2 months, little breakaway, and came back. And my human wanted to crawl into a fetal position on the floor and cry. And I chose to breathe, and I was like, I'm just gonna choose fucking joy. Okay. I am choosing fucking joy through this. This is such an interesting experience. How can I be present with this experience and just choose fucking joy? It'll all happen. It's all happening. It's all happening in perfect order. Just choose joy. So, That's the mastery level for us, my friend.
Amazing. So I'd love to know, with all the things that you've created and doing, and you mentioned the TV show, the Center for Light, all of these pieces. What's most alive in your field right now? Like what is like making you the wettest? What is bringing you the most
Ooh,
juices?
a lot of things make me wet. I just went like this with my pussy. I was like,
so much.
That's when you have to go, wait, don't contract. You go, oh, okay, yeah. Life makes me wet. Thank you for that question. The Sanctuary of Light, this is what I'm focused on right now. And it's been a beautiful also journey in my expansion alchemy of almost shedding this identity of where it could have been coming more from my masculine as well. As like I was always running programs, always running masterminds, always launching this, always doing TV, podcasts, you name it. And this next level of really allowing this to be birthed, this massive project. So the Sanctuary of Light is a training center of awakening consciousness, where we have event ceremony space for communities to come gather for experiences, as well as leaders to come and run workshops, trainings, etc., as well as a longevity wellness center. So sauna, gym, cold plunge, all those things, biohacking, as well as darkroom immersions, and then permaculture gardens, jungle homes for community, etc. And so it's really meant to be a place that people step into and they get a massive transformational experience. And in being called to be with this fully, I told you about 9 months ago, I was like, okay, I get to, for the first time in I don't know how many years, stop running my live masterminds that were continually going and launching new products and programs, and just like allow myself to be and maybe come from another place of what's the most nourishing for my soul, what is not, not too much, but having more spaciousness with my energy and that nourishment. So really bringing this forth, which is super close. We're just about to finalize, and then we'll begin on the last part of the big sanctuary building, which is the event space, and then be able to have the dark rooms and things like that. So it's coming along, and that's just what's the most alive for me in this moment. And I am open to whenever, like my freedom code, that it's like wherever life calls me, whatever I want to be, have the freedom. It's like, oh, if I want to write another book, I'll write another book. If I want to run a training, I'll run a training. If I want to, run a retreat or etc. And there's no have tos. So I've really been shifting my world and even my business of mentorship, etc., to come from a place of there's not these things that I ever have to do. It really is whatever the fuck feels amazing for my soul. And if that means, like right now, I've paused all those live experiences with me, that I am so fully in the life experience growth of what is here for me now. And then when that feels yummy, like it felt yummy, I haven't done an interview for a long time because I've been like, nope. But you asked me and I'm like, yeah, let's So I mean, that's bringing this forth is alive for me. Like I said, Erin was so excited about the dark rooms. I'm so excited for that space, like, and the codes that I know that I can bring forth in these trainings, like for those things that people get to experience. And along the way, I mean, people can still receive my products and my podcasts and my show and all the things, or read my book or do any of the things. But I'm just grateful to be here, continuing to expand and see what's next.
Yeah, celebrating you.
Thanks,
such a joy to feel you, to feel all your aliveness and energy and just everything you bring into this world. You're a true inspiration for many, and I know you've impacted so many lives, and thank you for your dedication to your soul. Ultimately, I know that's something you're speaking into, and your soul is making a big impact, and not because you should, but actually it just feels like the naturalness inside of you. So I just want to honor that and celebrate you. It's a beauty to have you in my life, and thank you that you're a colleague and a fellow mentor and a guide. And I know there's so much I can continue to learn from you.
I've been your student too. I've also been your student. That's when you first came into my world. It made a big impact on me. So thank you for that. Thank you. I received all that. Appreciate all that. That means so much. And it's a beautiful gift to have sacred beloveds that are all reflecting the journey. Like I said, you were a big impact on my journey, and that really opened up a whole other world for me. And so I know that what you're doing and bringing forth to the world is so powerful and impactful for everyone that gets to have an experience with you. And the beauty that we can all see is that in that, like, say someone comes to your experience, it just spreads like through their family and their friends and, like who they affect. And it's beautiful. So thanks for being on the journey with me, and thanks for having a fun little playtime together.
Yeah, I love this. I get to have fun conversations with humans I love on this call. So thank you so much, and thank you all for tuning in. If you haven't, you can subscribe to Love, Sex, and Leadership. And if you have any questions, feel free to write them in below to either myself or Sundari. Thank you so much, love. Have a beautiful day, and see you all next time.
Pew!
Bye.